Well, the world's dumbest president is doing some of the world's dumbest things. So let's talk about it. Good morning, everybody. It is Groundhog Day again. Not only does that mean that Punxsutawney Phil has come out to tell us whether we're going to have 6 more weeks of winter or not, which, spoiler alert, yeah, he says we are. But it's also happens to coincide with my brother's birthday, so shout out to my brother Patrick. Yes, I am the smallest of 3 boys. There's actually a larger, uglier version of me out there. Oh my God. So yeah, the world's dumbest president keeps doing the world's dumbest things. And before we get into it, there's something I want to clarify here. There's a lot of people that are very, rightfully so, very upset. A lot of these things that has been doing are ugly. They are. They're just ugly. And there's a lot of people that are just really wringing their hands because they're not seeing a lot done. And the reason for that, to be just completely, we'll just simplify it as much as possible. Most of this stuff's being done by executive order. It is. Which means there's not a lot for the legislature to do. And the responses to it are going to take time because the responses have to be done via lawsuits, and lawsuits take time. So it's filling people with a lot of anxiety. And I just want to settle everybody down. I do. I want to give you just a bit of confidence, something to feel better about. The whole point of this whole Project 2025 thing was it was supposed to be a blitzkrieg. I call it a blitzkrieg of bullshit. It was supposed to be a blitzkrieg. It was supposed to put us on our heels and keep us from reacting. And they were supposed to get their way on everything. And it's not working out. It's just not. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Trump's doing a lot of terrible shit. He is. Even a weak, I say this over and over again, even a weak, stupid president can do terrible things. But like Rachel Maddow pointed out the other day in her show, a blessing in all this is that they're incompetent. They really are incompetent. And this stuff's just not going to stand. It doesn't mean that they're not doing terrible. We're going to talk about some of the terrible things they're doing. But yeah, they're not really fundamentally getting what they wanted. It's like a wave coming in and crashing on the rocks. It's broken. It's floating back away. He's not winning. He's just not. And there are tons of reasons why he's not winning. For the most part, it's like, for instance, when they try to get everybody to quit their job in the federal government, guess what? People didn't do it. They didn't. Federal employees tend to be fairly well versed on employment law and have unions. And, sure, some people did, but for the most part, no. All those agencies and all those employees, they're still there. Are they doing damage? Yeah, they are. They are. Don't get me wrong. But we're going to be all right, and we're going to survive this. And proof of it is that they keep falling back. They do stuff and then they repeal it, and then they'll do something else and they'll repeal it. They took away Medicaid, then they gave it back, and then they do, it causes problems. Don't get me wrong; they're gumming up the works. They are, but the silver lining of that is it's just making the backlash worse. It's like this idiotic trade war. This is not what people wanted. It isn't. And they're trying to spin it over on the right wing. They're trying to say, well, it's patriotic to pay more now, because, we got to do this. And we don't. There was no reason for any of this. None. Every excuse they give, every problem they give, whatever, all of this, it was easily handled with just basic negotiation. But Trump, of course, being Trump, I'll give you a perfect example. NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. There were coming up, it was old enough, it was coming up on time to revisit it. And there were a few twerks here and there on both sides, all sides that people wanted. And it was basically just a negotiation is all it should have been. But it involved Trump. So, of course, it was all blown up. They didn't just tweak a trade agreement, they destroyed it. And what did they replace it with? The exact same damn agreement with a few little tweaks in it. The USMCA, the United States, Mexico, Canada agreement is NAFTA. It's freaking NAFTA. But Trump, back when he signed it back in 2020, he's like, "Woo! Look what I did! I done it! You did nothing." Here, I'll give you another example. They just did this. Federal agencies bar Black History Month and other special observances. And, like in the military and all of our departments, they can't acknowledge or basically ending Black History Month in the government, right? Yeah, that's a terrible thing. But you know what? I'm still celebrating it. You're still celebrating it. They didn't stop Black History Month. They didn't. They just did a shitty thing. And then when they got backlash, they backtracked and did exactly what Trump does. They put this out. This is from the White House's website. National Black History Month 2025 by the President of the United States of America, a proclamation. Yeah. Black History Month came into being under Gerald Ford back in 1974. It's been around since 1974. Trump's like trying to appeal to the bigots, trying to give the bigots what they want. Trump turns around and says, "No more Black History Month. We're going to appeal to the racists." Gets backlash and he says, "I invented National Black History Month. It is Trump's National Black History Month." Same shit they did with NAFTA. They did nothing. They did nothing but something shitty. That was it, to appease the bigots. So yeah, they're not winning. They're not fundamentally changing us. And as more and more time goes by, people are less and less shocked by the shit they're doing. They bombed Somalia, and it was barely a blurb. It wasn't even a day-long story in the news. They wanted it to be Trump's strength. Yeah, oh yeah, we're taking it to the Islamic State. And it wasn't even a day-long story. Nobody cares. Everybody's sick of him already. And the end result is this is going to be a huge backlash election. It is. It's just going to be a huge backlash election. And people are to the point now where they're not really even scared anymore. They're just kind of pissed. Lori Yates, thank you. Thank you. So the Democrats did this. One second. There we go. So the Democrats did this. They picked Ken Martin to be the new head of the DNC, which is a good thing. It really is. It's a good thing. I had to laugh at the reaction to it. Ken Martin comes from the DFL, which is the Democratic Party in Minnesota is known as the Democratic Farm and Labor Party, or the DFL. He's not a big name in national politics. He is a fresh face. He's what Democrats have been saying. We need new blood. We need new young blood. And so here's Ken Martin. And of course, the response from all of the same people that love to start the circular firing squads, the same people that couldn't be bothered to show up to vote, the same people that always claim about the Democratic Party's response to thanks for the support, Vincent. I really appreciate you, man. The response has been, who the hell is this guy? Oh my God. He's a good choice. He is a good choice. He's not a moron. He doesn't fall for traps. He's understands the task ahead of him, and it's just getting the wheels moving. The Democrats are on the march. You've seen it with Hakeem Jeffries. You've seen it now. They've got their party officials in place. The messaging just gets better and better. So yeah, this is what we're going to do. E.T., the shortest black history, was more or less a slap in the face as it was. The shortest month. Yeah, they picked the shortest calendar month of the year to make it Black History Month. That was an intentional slap in the face. But they're not stopping it. I put a video out about Mansa Musa. If you don't remember, we've talked about him on the show before. He's the richest man to ever live. And I know that people are saying, oh, no, Elon Musk is the richest man. No, he's not. Not even close. Not even close. Elon Musk's wealth it's a slice. It's a piece of paper. It's not even money. It's a piece of paper. It's a stock, and its valuation is fictional. It has nothing to do with the actual value or the assets of his company. By the way, Tesla missed their earnings mark in the last, and they just got a 100% tariff slapped on them from Canada. We're going to talk more about that in just a second. Elon Musk is not the richest man to ever live. He is not. It is pretend money. Mansa Musa, who was the leader of the Mali Empire back around 1300 or so, was really the richest man to ever live. He had gold and gold mines. He had ivory. He controlled the salt trade. And back in the 1300s, salt was life. He had horses, he had cattle, he had land, he had every bit of his $400+ billion worth of estimated assets were actual assets. None of it was fictional freaking paper. It was all his gold, jewels, real assets. Mansa Musa. And he was black and he was Muslim. That's why you didn't hear about him in school. So yeah, they're not changing us. They're not. They're not changing who we are. We're still celebrating Black History Month. I'm going to do a lot more videos during Black History Month of outstanding black men and women that have contributed to not just America, but to the world. So fuck Donald Trump and his stupidity. And that's where the country is. So yeah, let me just wrap this up with saying we're going to get through this. We are. But there are going to be bumps in the road like we're about to talk about today. Sherry Foster, hi, Texas Paul. Any news on Elon Musk having access to the Treasury database? Personal information? Yeah, he's got it. He got it. Scott Bessent took charge as the head of the Treasury, and he let him right in, handed him the keys. What they're doing with it? No, we don't know yet. Charles Stevens, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Glad to see our Cali people here. Glad a little bit of good news. The California fires, the major California fires, are all 100% contained. Not all out yet, but they're 100% contained. So, yeah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. This happened. We've had several things happen in the news today, but this is the big one. Everybody's talking about it. So let's just dig right into it. Trump signs order imposing tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China. All right, let me start out by saying to our maple flavored friends, our Mexican friends, our spicy friends from south of the border, and our Chinese friends, I am sorry. I am really sorry. No, there was no need for this. It was stupid as shit on the face of the planet, and I apologize. I do. I didn't have any control over it, didn't want it, but I apologize. A needlessly stupid trade war. The shredding of the USMCA, the just for no good reason. And that's how it started. And this is where we're at. It is not just tariffs, it is a trade war now. Canada imposes retaliatory tariffs, which is really going to hurt red states. It really is, because Canada, they were pissed about this. I mean, it was useless and stupid, and they are highly pissed about this. I was watching a video from a hockey game the other day. Normally, when there's a hockey game, the crowd will sing both anthems. You know, they will. When the California fires broke out, I played a video of during a hockey game, the Canadians finishing the national anthem, our national anthem, as a show of brotherhood. They sent firefighters, they sent planes, they sent everything. You know, it was a moment of brotherhood. Last night we had a hockey game, and yeah, they were booing our anthem. You really got to work to piss off the nicest people in the world. You do. And I can't apologize enough to our maple flavored friends. I can't. Yeah, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And you're right to be pissed. Mexico is also issuing retaliatory tariffs. Canada's tariffs are specifically designed to hurt red states. Mexico is working. They are going to target theirs also. So sorry, you MAGA morons. You're getting what you voted for. But Canada's tariffs, they go right at like Kentucky and Florida, and all of they're specifically targeting goods that are manufactured in red states to cause the most amount of pain among MAGA, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, no kidding, right? No kidding. And it's a shakedown. All it is, thank you for the support. $50 is a lot of money. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was. It was a sucker punch to our allies. But it's a shakedown. There's no other reason for it. It's a grift. There's nothing to be gained out of this. And what's worse is we talked about it before. We've talked about it before. Randy Oliver in the house. Potash from Canada equals fertilizer for red states, but nobody to pick crops. Yeah. Amen, brother. Amen. We're going to get into the dynamics of what this means here in just a second. When we start talking about just a handful of specific items. Amy Emanuel, every car, truck, including for shipping, has parts from Canada and Mexico. Yeah. Yeah. This affects everything. Michelle Bailey, thanks for the support. I don't blame you, Sausage Studio. I really don't. I imagine the Canadian people are highly pissed off. A silver lining is this can't be too good for old Pierre up there. China, same thing. China's retaliating. China is retaliating. And the immediate net results of this, I mean, even the Wall Street Journal, this is from the Wall Street Journal editorial board. This isn't just an editorial where they brought in an outside writer. This is from the Wall Street Journal ultra conservative editorial board. This was their response when they confirmed that the tariffs were going in place. The dumbest trade war in history. The dumbest trade war in history. It absolutely is. It absolutely is. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about what it means. You know, we've talked. Thanks for the support. I really appreciate you, Kate Mary. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Can't do it without you. Dumbest trade war ever. Amen. Amen. So let's talk about it. These little, I love to give specific examples. Specific examples. Okay, I do. These little boogers right here. Those are called rape seeds. Rape seeds. Not anything to do with the word, the offensive sounding word. No, it comes from the word rapum, the Latin word rapum, which means turnip. But no, they're not turnip seeds. E.T. needs some President Musk did this stickers to tell everybody so we can start sticking them everywhere. Amen. Amen. I am telling you, I am with you. Now, this is an interesting crop. If you go back to ancient history, they would grow this crop. It's a leafy green, by the way, and it's absolutely stunning to look at. This is one of the things that's on my bucket list, is to travel to China and actually see these during the bloom. Isn't that just incredible looking? Just seas of rape blooms. Just absolutely stunning. And yes, it's a tourist thing. They do have like overlooks, but isn't that just gorgeous? You should just look it up sometime on Google. Chinese rape crops. It really is stunning. So it's a leafy green plant, right? It is. But it's very high in erucic acid, which is what makes it a really, really, really the oil that you get from rape is actually has a really, 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 really cool quality to it. It sticks to hot surfaces really well. Erucic acid is just fat. It's just a fatty molecule is all it is. And the way the molecule is designed, it does really well at sticking to very, very hot surfaces. So during World War II, we used it as lubricants in steamships. And we used it in lubricants for locomotives. It's just really, really good at it. It does. It's really, really good at it. But after World War II, and when we didn't have oil shortages and whatnot, and we started to develop alternative lubricants that were a little bit better, the use of rapeseed declined. It did, and they would still use it. It's like jet fuel. Jet fuel is basically heavy oil. It's heavy diesel oil, basically, is what jet fuel is. But they mix it with some lighter oils, biological oils, bio oils, and rape oil is one of them. It's still got a lot of industrial uses. It does. But the market for it was declining. And and I hope it doesn't offend you that I call you this, our maple flavored friends who grew a lot of it said, you know what? This stuff works really good. I mean, it's vegetable fat. It works really good on hot surfaces. Why don't we sell it as cooking oil? It's got the right properties. I mean, erucic oil, don't get me wrong. Erucic acid, pardon me, is difficult. Not difficult. It is complicated in some certain situations. Like if you have heart disease, they'll tell you not to eat it because it can actually cause heart disease. It can exacerbate heart disease. But for the most part, it's actually a really healthy oil, and it does a really good job under high temperatures. But nobody wants to eat rape oil. Nobody that speaks English, anyways. So our maple flavored friends started coming up with new ways to market. And back in the 1970s, they trademarked a new name for it. It's a portmanteau. Portmanteau is like motel, motor hotel, or brunch, breakfast and lunch, brunch. Or Netflix. Netflix is a modern portmanteau. It is, of course, internet movies, Netflix. Our Canadian friends said, you know what? Let's call it can oil, which nobody wanted to eat that either. Nobody wanted can oil. So they said, well, you can kind of switch it around and you can make it canola. Canola. Voila. We now have canola cooking oil. A lot of you people's favorite cooking oil is canola oil. That's where it comes from. These folks that were making industrial oil wanted to keep their market, so they changed the name up so that nobody had to call it rape oil. And our Canadian friends came up with Canada oil or canola oil. China is huge on growing canola oil, and it has tons of industrial uses still to this day. Not only do they use it as one of the mixtures as one of the bio components in like jet fuel and whatnot. They still use it in cooking and on industrial scales. They just do. And now it's under a 10% tariff because we don't grow much canola here in the United States. But everywhere we get it now has a tariff on it. So I know what the simpletons are thinking. The right-wingers over there are saying, well, you know what? I don't care. I'll pay 10% more for some Chinese oil. I don't care. That's patriotic to pay 10% more for your groceries. Well, it ain't 10%, folks. It isn't. It's not 10%. Susan McIntosh, I want to apologize to Mexico and Canada and hope they know that most of us aren't MAGA. That is true. Most of us are not. This is a minority thing. And even the folks in MAGA that are waking up are not digging this. This is a Trump shakedown. But yeah, no, why does it mean no, it's not just going to be 10% more or 25% more? Because it's also used in other things that you buy. That's the problem with tariffs, folks. That is the problem with tariffs. They become legacy costs in and of themselves in other products and other components that go into other things that you make, and it keeps doubling and tripling down on itself. So some of the products you get are going to go up in cost 50%, not 10% or 25%. But I assure you that Donald Trump is too stupid to know what he just did. He is too stupid to understand the big picture of what he did. Brian Peachy, good morning, Texas Paul. Northern and Canadian friends would be better than Maple friends. Okay, I will take it to heart, sir. I will take it to heart. I will take it to heart. I assure you, Donald Trump does not understand the complexities of what he has just done. Thank you, Janet Boyd. I appreciate you. He doesn't. He doesn't. But there are people that do, that really get this. They understand how this compounds and how it affects everything. Hedge funds bet billions on market crash in Trump's America. Goldman Sachs reports a huge surge. It's actually now the largest surge ever recorded in short bets against U.S. stocks. For the folks that don't know, not everybody knows. I know we're a pretty advanced audience, but some of us may not, remember what shorting is. Pal Schumann, hi all from Bakersfield, where oranges are being picked for fear of ice raids. Aren't being picked for fear of ice raids. Yeah. Before he did this, we were already going to see an increase in produce prices. We were, just because of the stupid, idiotic immigration policies, all of it. But this just compounds it because of how much of the produce we get from Mexico that just got a 25% tax that you have to pay slapped on top of it. Colleen Sarah, he has to have someone else read him the EOE signing. Yeah, I don't think I think they're just blithering. Like Rachel Maddow said, they're just incompetent. And there's a silver lining to that. Remind me, don't let me forget to explain this particular silver lining. It involves Rudy Giuliani. Don't let me get sidetracked and forget. I want to explain to you why their incompetence is a good thing. And it does involve Rudy Giuliani, of all people. Sally S. says the tariffs aren't patriotic. The tariffs are taxpayer cash to pay orange man billionaire friends. Exactly. It is a class war, and it is a shakedown. It really is a shakedown because there was no economic reason to do it. It's a shakedown. And I've got a conspiracy theory I want to share with y'all later. You know me, I hate conspiracy theories, but this is my own conspiracy theory. I've got a hunch, and I'm wanting to see if this develops. We'll talk about that later too. I want to finish about shorts. What does that mean that we're getting a record number of shorts? It's the weekend. The markets are closed, right? But everybody that's Johnny Got Rocks, they don't got to wait till the weekend. They can get a hold of their traders now. If something happened in the world, they wouldn't have to react to it on Monday when everybody came back to work. No, that's you and me. That's us poors. We don't have access to our traders 24/7. Johnny Got Rocks does. There's somebody at Goldman Sachs to take their phone call on the weekend. I promise you. What are short positions? Just to remind everybody. Look, most people are long-term investors. You put your money into your retirement fund, and that retirement fund takes long-term positions. They don't trade back and forth. That's a good way to lose money. That is a good way to lose money. All of your biggest investors are not. They don't trade back and forth. They long-term invest. A good way for them to make money, since they're not going to leave a position in a market downturn. They're going to hold their stock. They think it's got value, right? Over the long term, they think it's got value. They're not going to leave a stock. But a way for them to make money is to loan their stock to people that do trade daily or hourly or however often. They will loan their stock out. They sign a contract with a trader that believes the market's going to crash, just like they're doing right now, today. Everybody's betting the market's going to crash. So they've gone to all these massive institutional investors and they've said, loan me your stock and I will give it back to you. I'll give you the exact same number of stocks plus a little fee. Okay? Just a little fee. It's usually around 17%. It can be, depending on the trader and their relationship and reputations, but typically it's around 17%. Right? So they'll take this stock, borrow it, and sell it. That's what they do. Monday is going to be a massive sell-off. All the shorters are going to take all that stock that they bought and they're going to sell it as fast as they can. And then when the market tanks, they're going to go back. They're going to take all that money they got from selling it. Yeah, Warren Buffett's a perfect example of a long-term institutional investor. He would buy a stock like, say, Campbell's Soup, and he would say it will long-term pay off. And then he would loan that stock out when the market goes south. The shorters take that stock and they sell it. So they've got money now. They've taken the stock. They've got money, X amount of money. Wait for the market to crash. Then they take that money and they go buy the stock back cheaper. Because remember, they borrowed the stock. They got to give it back. So when the market tanks, they buy it back cheaper. And the difference between what they sold it at and what they bought it back at, that's their gravy. That's shorting. That is shorting. Now, that little fee that they paid, if you're a long-term investor, you weren't going to ride this up dip and rocky stuff anyways. You're counting from point A to point B. That's it. Everything that you make in fees, loaning your stock out, well, that's just gravy. That's just extra money. And that's shorting in a Cliff's Notes. That is what the people in the know are doing right now. Now, don't take me for financial advice. I am not giving you financial advice. I'm simply discussing what Goldman Sachs has said. If you want to do anything financially, you go talk to your financial advisor. But that is what the markets are preparing for. Charles Stevens says Trudeau just slapped $155 billion on American goods taking place on Tuesday. Yes. Yeah. Here's the problem. We talked about this before. Beyond the destabilization of the markets and what it's going to cost people and their investments and all of those problems, tariffs are horrible because they are extremely difficult to get rid of once they're in place. They just are. You'd think they wouldn't be because, hey, you slap them on pretty easy. We can probably take them off pretty easy, right? No, it doesn't work that way, which will make the crash of 29 or even later just a small bump in the road. Yeah, we don't know how bad this is going to get because, like I said, we're already having problems with price spikes due to Trump's idiotic immigration policy. Now we've got price spikes because of tariffs, and they're going to be much worse. Thanks, Dana, for the support. I appreciate you. They're going to be much worse than what they're calculating, and the markets know it. They know it. They're shorting like crazy. And again, there's no reason for it. It's like his nominations. None of them had to be. There were qualified people that wanted to do these jobs. It didn't have to be this way. They're doing it by choice. And this is where my conspiracy theory comes into play. I think that Trump's getting advice. I don't think he really understands the concepts here. I don't. Everybody that's from his business or talked about his business will tell you he's dumb as dog shit and he's got no attention span. Somebody's telling him to do this. And I think it's Russia. I do. I think it's Russia. And I think it's the Saudis. And we'll talk more about the Saudis later. And this is, you know me, I hate conspiracy theories, but this is the feeling I'm getting. Yeah, I haven't looked at the markets, but I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad. I knew it was going to be bad. Monday's going to be bloody. Unless they cancel those short positions and those short orders today, Monday's going to be bloody. But I kind of think he's doing this for Russia. I do. And he's getting horrible advice because everything he's doing is playing right into Xi's hands. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. But let me wrap up my conspiracy theory. Crushing our economy the way this is going to cause oil prices to plummet. You saw what happened in COVID, right? I mean, no demand, prices, boom. But you also saw what happened to American oil companies during COVID. Well, same thing happens here. You're going to see a sharp lack of demand for oil. People aren't going to be buying new cars. They're not going to be any of that. I mean, none of that. Travel's going to be more expensive. Like I said, some of the components of jet fuel are bio. This is going to be long-term horrible for the U.S. domestic oil industry. And that leaves Saudi Arabia and Russia in a unique position because Russia desperately needs capital. Desperately. They are crumbling as we speak. They've lost all of they are so broke that they've lost. We're going to talk a little bit about the Middle East here in a little bit. Russia is so broke, they've lost their influence in the Middle East. They just can't be sugar daddy Russia anymore. And that's causing some global consternations also. But if the U.S. oil industry gets just decimated by when prices dropping too low for too long, well, when they rip off those sanctions off of Russia, Russian oil is going to be worth a hell of a lot more going forward in the future. And Canadian oil just got a 10% tariff slapped on it. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, that's the opposite of what you just said. That would cause oil prices to go up. And that would be good for the American industry. It has a greater effect on the economy around it because remember, everything has an energy cost legacy component to it. And that little bit of 10% tariff on Canadian oil will be enough of a drag that it's going to hurt the economy around it. Everything that's got a legacy cost. Canada's our largest energy trading partner. All energy prices just went up, which has a negative. It's like taking a diesel engine and slapping, when you get a runaway diesel engine, what do? They take a coat or anything they can and they slap it over the in tank to starve it to death of oxygen. That's what that 10% tariff on Canadian oil is. It's literally putting your hands over the mouth of our economy on top of the already higher prices, which will drive oil demand down precipitously. So yeah, you might see a slight bump because when they slap tariffs on Canadian oil, that's going to allow everybody else in the global market to raise their prices a little bit. You might see a slight bump temporarily in oil prices. Long term, it kills them. It kills them. And I got to tell you, folks, it is playing out. It is playing out globally. It's not just it's not just us. And I'll give you an example of how it's affecting things globally. We talked about Ahmed al-Shara, and I told you how smart he is. He's the new ruler of Syria. He's been spending the last few weeks consolidating his power. And he's been doing a good job of it. And he just took his first foreign trip where he went to Saudi Arabia. And what is he looking to do? What is he looking for from Saudi Arabia? See, al-Shara already has extremely close ties to Turkey. Turkey, they were his backing in this revolution. They were the ones that rolled the dice and took the most risk. Why go to Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia at one point withdrew their support of the rebels in Syria. Who's got access to Trump? Syria has sanctions on it now. He's going there, and the meetings that they're having, the agendas that they're talking about, is eliciting Saudi's help in getting those sanctions lifted, which means you're going to get Syrian oil onto the market, which isn't much, but it is, again, if it's half a point here and there, and he's doing it. I've got to tell you, he's doing it brilliantly. I said, watch this guy. He knows his shit. He knows how to do this. He has not come off as a Muslim hardliner. He comes from Al Qaeda, folks. That was where he was trained, but he is not acting like Al Qaeda. Peter Campbell, rather than building on the success of Joe Biden, Trump, and Putin are just burning it all down for spite. Yeah, it's insanity. It's stupidity. It's craziness what they're doing. Beth, thank you for the support. I really appreciate you. I really do appreciate you. Now, look, when I say al-Shara is just being brilliant about this, this is the kind of stuff that I mean. This is Mesa Sabrine. This is Mesa Sabrine. She is the new head of Syria's central bank. Yeah. A guy that came out of Al Qaeda, some of the most radical portions of Islam, just appointed a woman to run Syria's central bank. Because I'm telling you, al-Shara is brilliant. Thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. And yeah, please like and subscribe. Get as many people this information as possible. I know, right? I know. He is being absolutely brilliant about this. He's reaching out to the EU. He's reaching out through Saudi Arabia to us, and he is selling it. He is selling it as humanitarian. You have to, all the right steps. You have to pull these sanctions off of us. We're not those guys. We're not the radicals. We need to rebuild our country. Look at the tragedy in our country. We have to rebuild. Drop the sanctions. Look, I can prove I'm not crazy. I just made Mesa Sabrine the head of our central bank. I'm telling you, the guy is freaking brilliant. And who benefits from this the most? Turkey. Turkey does. They are quietly sitting in the background right now after absolutely being the source of all the intelligence and weaponry and everything that allowed this revolution to happen. Ahmed al-Shara owes his life to Recep Erdogan in Turkey. Now, what does that mean? How does that tie into our tariffs? Erdogan is not tied to us. They're not. They do 5% of their trade with us. Many ate us. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, for bringing the truth and context. History matters, understanding how the world works. Thank you. Thank you for being here so you can spread this information. Turkey, their largest trading partner is the EU, Europe. And I told you, with this kind of stupidity, this next century is either going to be Europe's or China's. Guess who is making massive inroads into Turkey? They're not out there threatening people. They're not out there causing problems. It's China. China used to be 8% of Turkey's trade. Then they became 12%. Now they're 14%. They're investing in Turkey. You know, just like we talked about Panama, folks. Mike Bundy says, please explain the different crudes and refineries, et cetera, Brent C versus West Texas versus tar sand. We'll talk a little bit about that. Sure. Yeah, go ahead. We'll put a pin in it and we'll talk about that real quick. Susie Garman, thank you, Mr. Texel, for keeping us informed. Please, pissed off November. And I've been pissed off since November from John and Susan. Hey, guys. There are different grades of crude. There's West Texas Intermediate, which is considered kind of like a medium grade to light grade. Saudi oil is all light, sweet crude. Canadian oil tends to be heavy crude, heavy sour crude. Brent is heavier crude. Not every refinery is set up to refine every type. You can't just stick any oil into a refinery and get a product out. They are specifically designed to deal with different inputs. They just are. A lot of the refineries down here on the Gulf Coast only work off of light sweet crude and West Texas intermediate grade crude. A lot of that Canadian oil travels all the way down here to the Gulf and then goes out on the world market. It just does. It's not simple. It's complex. And what you slap tariffs on matters. It does. It matters. You know, there's what they call Louisiana Light and Mississippi Sweet. There's all different kind of grades of oil, and they can't just go into any refinery. They just can't. Now, the heavier stuff, China really has a lot of refineries to refine the heavier grades of oil. They just do. They benefit when heavier crudes get cheaper. And I got to tell you, folks, any slowdown whatsoever is highly benefiting China because they have been positioning. Look what they did in Panama. They're building Panama a brand new power grid. Think about what that's worth. You know, I mean, talk to our Puerto Rican friends about what a neglected power grid is like. Thank you for the support, Helen. And Puerto Rico is part of our country, and we're treating them like shit. Here you have Xi, who's coming in to places like Panama and saying, hey, you know what? How does a shiny new port sound? How does a shiny new power grid sound? We'll loan you the money really cheap because we're your friends. They're doing the same thing in Turkey. They're doing the same thing in Turkey. Turkey's like biggest, their longest green. The British call them lorries, and we call them big rigs and trucks. Turkey makes industrial vehicles and equipment. That's their biggest export. So they kind of compete with China, but not really. Different markets, and China has gotten really smart at working with countries like Turkey. And Turkey, they are the new power broker in the Middle East. It's not the Saudis. If Turkey went to war with Saudi Arabia, it would be a 2-week war. It would be a 2-week war. Even with the, we like to brag about, oh, well, we sold the Saudis F-15s and we did. No. If Turkey went to war with Saudi Arabia, it would be a 2-week war, and Saudi Arabia knows it. Iran is decimated. Their power, their influence, when they lost Syria, Hezbollah is reeling, and Trump is playing right into BRICS' hands. Everybody remember BRICS? This is where I was going with this. Shaking my head. I'm so angry and terrified right now. I just ordered the fuck Trump mug thing. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the show. I'll drink my coffee with pride. Thank you for the work. I appreciate you shaking my head. I do. I appreciate you supporting the show. BRICS, acronym: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The BRICS trade bloc. Not a real big threat. It's really not. It's really not if we have smart leadership here in the U.S. Because our ties with Europe, our ties with Turkey is trying to join BRICS. Donald Trump and this idiocy of taking, and I want you to think about this, okay? We had the most ironclad and friendliest of trade agreements in the USMCA, what NAFTA became. Trump just, as we just saw a member of our audience say, Trump just punched our allies in the mouth for no reason. How does that play out internationally? If you're looking to make a deal, if you're looking to find backing, if you're looking to find support, if you're long-term looking for the interests of your country, which is what China does. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Bill Maher here in a minute. Just made some very stupid comments. That's what you do. You just look out for the interests of that's what you do. Everything Trump is doing is pushing people towards BRICS. Canada is now working more aggressively with China. Turkey is now working more aggressively with China. The EU, which sees China as a competitor, is working more with China. Now, here's the silver line. You wanted to reminded me of Rudy and where Rudy falls into all this. Well, let me finish summing this up. I'm glad to do it, America 2025, and thank you for supporting the show. Okay. What does this mean? This means over the next at least 2 years, not quite 2 years, under 2 years, we have an election coming up. We have actually special elections coming up now. And this stuff is going to cause pain. Folks, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of your pharmaceuticals are manufactured in China and just got a tariff slapped on them. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button and subscribe button. We're over 5,000 people in the show right now. All of that pain is coming home to us. There will be a backlash. Now, where I'm saying Rudy may have screwed Trump more than anybody, the legal justification for what Trump's doing, notice it, I said he's doing everything by executive order. Now, pay close attention to what I say here. This is where the Democrats are. This is where the Democrats are fighting. Okay? Trump is using executive orders to do everything. Do things like this. Let me show you. This is where, let me see, I got it here. Remember we talked about cutting off USAID. Well, USAID.gov is gone. Is gone. We talked in the last show about what that means for refugees in Myanmar. We talked about refugees in Sudan. People are literally dying over this right now. The USAID website, thanks for the support, AJC. I appreciate you, is gone. This is what you get when you go to USAID now. Now, there's a law called the Impoundment Act of 1974. What it says is, and this is where Trump got in trouble over the Ukraine thing. Remember, withholding arms and whatnot. This is what got him impeached, is the Impoundment Act. A president cannot tell Congress what to do. They're co-equal branches of government. And what the Cliff's Notes of what the Impoundment Act says is, you as president can't say, I don't like what Congress did. Screw it. I just won't spend the money. Because that is essentially overruling Congress. And it's against the law. It's a crime. Y'all remember the first impeachment? Y'all remember the witnesses testifying to he was withholding the funds. The crime that he was committing was a violation of the Impoundment Act. They're saying there are stipulations in the Impoundment Act that allows him to do it in certain ways and under certain things. But that won't play out in court. Mad King Donald, the first MK Day 1 rulings are from on high. Yeah. Listen. It gets even worse for them. And it's thanks to Rudy Giuliani. Do y'all remember a little thing called the line item veto? Y'all remember Bill Clinton, for a very brief period of time, back around 1998, had a line item veto. Essentially, the president could go in and he could look at a bill, and whatever Congress put in the bill, if he didn't like it, he could veto it and make them pass it with a supermajority. Well, the conservatives on the Supreme Court said, hell to the no. And do you know who sued him back in 1998 that cost him the line item veto? Easy guess, folks. New York City. And who was the mayor of New York City in 1998? Rudy. Rudy was going to show him. Took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the President of the United States cannot overrule Congress. You are a co-equal branch. Just as in the Impoundment Act, you cannot have line item veto authority. You have no power to overrule Congress at all. So, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, you can imagine it. These lawsuits over all of these illegal impoundments of funding through these executive orders are all going to fail. Even if they take them to their conservative Supreme Court, Donald Trump is going to lose. And they know it. They know it. The goal was to overwhelm us, to destroy as much as possible, to get us defeated. So that you get those people that are like on your social media, like, Democrats ain't fighting. Democrats are terrible. That's the whole point, is to get you feeling defeated. Janet Boyd, yeah, make America unfucked again. Yes. In the long run, and it won't be quick. It will, you know how long these court cases take, and there will be damage between here and there. Just like with USAID, we talked about it in the last show. People are literally dying because of this right now. So I'm not telling you pie in the sky bullshit. It's all going to be great. We're going to whoop them and woo. We're going to take them out. No. But we are going to win. We are going to win. Because there is no possible way that this Supreme Court, especially since many of these cases will hit after the 2026 election. There is no way. Mike Bundy, ever heard of the TXSC low-hanging fruit? Yeah. Michelle Karolowski, thank you for the support. I appreciate it. There is no way after the 2026 backlash election, this Supreme Court is going to look at the possibility of a Democratic president or the next president and say, yeah, let's give that guy line item power. Let's give that guy the right to just veto Congress whenever, with anything they don't agree with, just not do it. We're going to reverse every bit of conservative legal principle just to give to Donald Trump. And it'll be okay with the next guy. I'm sure a Democrat won't use it, right? Hell no, they're not going to say that. Hell to the no, they're not going to say that. Lori H., thank goodness for the three branches of government. Exactly. Exactly. As ugly as this is, we survived the onslaught. We did. The government employees didn't resign en masse. The departments are still there. They are going to lose in court. Fenrir, pardon me. The Supreme Court doesn't want the executive to do what it wants because if a Democrat is in office, they can't say anything. Exactly. This flies in the face of everything conservatives have been trying to do forever, which is great for them as long as they think they're going to have a dictator. But I promise you, folks, if you will just get out and y'all will participate and do what you're supposed to do, keep the circular firing squads from shooting us in the ass. After this 2026 backlash election, there's no way in hell I will bet my life on this fact. They're going to tell Donald Trump, yeah, you can just impound whatever you want. Yeah, Congress doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter that it's a law. Because remember, everything that they rule on, even when they were giving Trump his kingly powers, they were all saying, well, it's the law. It's the law. Johnny Schaefer, I'm with you, Texas. I'm glad you're here, man. I'm glad you're here. And this, Gavin, there's no Ian Newsom. Jackie, thank you. Exactly. Do you think this Supreme Court, if there's even a 10% chance of there being a President Gavin Newsom in 2028, is going to hand that kind of power to the executive branch? No, not these. There will be a couple. Clarence Thomas will. Samuel Alito will. I don't even think Neil Gorsuch will, to be honest with you. As radical as he is, I don't think he'll do it. Brett Kavanaugh will. But Then you've got Amy Coathanger Barrett. She's actually being surprisingly liberal in the last few elections. She may turn out to be another David Souter, somebody that was appointed conservative, and the longer they spend on the court, the more liberal they become. David Souter was a conservative, folks, when he hit the court. He was. And by the time he retired, he was one of these staunch, trustworthy liberals on the court. William G. Atheist, number one. Thank you for the support. A lot of children are going to die. And what's in common? They are not white. Sad, sad. Which is a perfect segue to this next story. We just had another plane crash, this one in Philadelphia. It is a real tragedy. We found out the backstory behind it. It is an incredible tragedy. It was an angel flight. If you don't know what an angel flight is, they're companies that are set up that people will fund through their donations and the goodness of their heart. Fenrir, thank you again for the support. I think we should amend the Constitution and break up the executive. Most states already have this. The governor, attorney general, treasurer are all electable offices. Federal executive, not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. It's something I would have to think more on, but not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. Viva la resistance. Yeah. Keep resisting. Keep resisting. Yeah, Steve, this was just a tragedy. I got to try to hold it together. There's a company called Jet Rescue that they do medical transport. The inside, the inside of this Learjet. It's a Learjet 55 is the model. It has hospital beds in it. And that's what crashed in Philadelphia. They took off. They got about 1,500 feet, and then they nosed down in. This is horrific. The crash site. You can see how little is left of the actual plane. That is a sidewalk, people. They hit about 1,500 feet, and they don't know what happened yet, but it blazed in. And the passenger on the plane, God damn it, Paul. The passenger on the plane was a little girl who just spent 4 months in the hospital, Shriners Hospital. The 6-year-old girl, that's right. Just spent 4 months getting medical treatment. Her and her family were on that flight. She'd just been released from the hospital. So, yeah, that happened. That just happened. Yeah. We don't need less. We don't need stupider people at the FAA. We need better people at the FAA. We don't need less government. We need more government. We need more people doing inspections, more people doing what's necessary to keep our flights safe. You know, we didn't, under the Biden administration, we didn't have a single plane crash. Not a jet, anyways. Not a passenger jet crash, anyway. Thank you, Sharon Butler. Yeah, they are, because it means that you're not doing the work. When you start having plane crashes, it means you're not doing the work. And they're trying again. They'll lose in the long term. They will, but it means they're trying to eliminate important jobs that the government does. But they're incompetent and they're stupid. And this is just another example of how incompetent and stupid they are. Ted Cruz, one of the things that the corporate media aren't going to tell you about, just humiliated himself and has caused an international incident. Winston Peters, he's the foreign minister for New Zealand, another great ally. I don't know if we have any New Zealanders here. in the audience. We might. But Winston Peters had to call Ted Cruz on the carpet because Ted Cruz is putting out tweets saying it's difficult to treat New Zealand as a normal ally within the American alliance system when they denigrate and punish Israeli citizens for defending themselves and their country from Iranian-controlled terrorists. Hamas didn't just murder Israeli folks on October 7th, but also yada, 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 yada. What Ted Cruz goes on to say here is that New Zealand is setting up, well, here, I'll show you the article he linked. He's saying this is true. He's saying this article out of Haaretz is true. And it's not. It's completely wrong. And Haaretz has taken the article down from X, the article that Ted Cruz linked to, but this article is actually incorrect. They said this article from Haaretz, which is terrible because Haaretz used to be a reliably left-leaning and accurate news source. They have started to do the same stupid shit that, Benjamin Netanyahu is doing the same shit that Trump is doing, and they're trying to force right-wingers into every news outlet. This comes out of one of the right-wingers, and it's completely fabricated and completely made up. It's an article that says they have set up genocide hotlines in New Zealand, and that every Israeli that goes to New Zealand has to disclose all over their military service in order to get a visa to enter New Zealand, which is a complete and utter lie. It's not true. All you need to do to get into New Zealand is have a passport. Your nationally issued ID. That's it. Just a passport. None of what they just said there is true. It's all fabricated. And one of our senators is amplifying it because, the conservatives, Netanyahu, the conservatives here always have to be the victims. Even when they have to make it up, they have to be the victims. So yeah, the New Zealanders are pissed because you've got one of our senators just lying about them, and they've asked, thank you for the support, Janet, I appreciate you. And they've insisted that Ted Cruz take it back and Ted Cruz apologize. Which, knowing your typical Republican, he's got no character, he's got no morals, he will probably just double down on this stupid lie. But yeah, the New Zealanders are pissed. They are not happy about this at all. It's one thing after another, because these MAGA Republican freaks always live in fantasy land. There's another one. Donald Trump puts a tweet out last night talking about this beautiful river in California is flowing again. Look how beautiful it is. First of all, the picture was not beautiful that he attached. It was not the prettiest part. I looked this river up. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's a river in New Hampshire, or no, Vermont. Pardon me. It was a river in Vermont. And somebody saw the picture and said, I've been there. That's in Vermont. That's not in California. But Trump is saying, oh, look, I turned the water back on. There's water flowing in California again. Made up crap all the time. All the time. Colleen Sarah, flood your GOP reps with texts, calls, emails saying, I don't know. I know what you did. Do your research. Seems to be one of the reasons they keep supporting Trump. Let me tell you something. Yes, do that. Mark Newcomb says, I'll back my Kiwi bros. Please keep Rubio away from Australia. Yeah. Marco Rubio, now that you mention it, 2 years ago, Marco Rubio was castigating Joe Biden, saying that deporting, because you remember Joe Biden deporting people back to Venezuela was murder. Was murder. Today, Marco Rubio is forcing Venezuela to take deportees back who just 2 years ago said we're going to be murdered. Nothing of what they say, Janet, thank you for the support. I appreciate you. Nothing about what they say is ever true. It is never based in reality. It is always hypocrisy. It is always just lying and making shit up. Just like Trump's tweet about the river. Wasn't even a river in California, much less have anything to do with Trump and them did. And the farmers are highly pissed off at this point. Mike Bundy says, ever seen the haka donut with Polly's respect? Yeah, there was the viral one that went around with the minister that did a haka right on the floor in New Zealand. If you've never seen a haka, one of the most touching ones out there is students at a school. One of their beloved longtime teachers passed away, and all the students came out of the school when the funeral procession passed by the school and performed the haka for him. Really touching. If you ever get a chance to watch it, just Google it. It will come up. You'll see. Students do haka for teacher, and it'll come up. Very touching. Highly impressive. Cecile, thank you for the support. Yeah, the rugby teams do it too. It works. It works. I mean, psyching yourself up works. But yeah, something else has happened, and I want to talk about this. I don't understand what happens with these comedians. I don't. I don't get it. You know, I like y'all know I absolutely. By the way, Christopher Titus does a great show. He does it called the Armageddon Update. Check him out here on YouTube. He and Rachel Bradley and Highlander get together and they do an hour and a half show on the news and different events. And comedians are incredibly gifted people at communicating. It is an amazing show. Just talking about comedians in general. Tim Burrow Harrison says, can Trump be impeached? He has immunity. Who's going to impeach him? Democrats are in the minority. Who's going to impeach him? The Republicans aren't going to allow that to come up for a vote. No, he can't. Now, if you do your job and you win us the House back with gusto, maybe, but it won't pass the Senate. It won't pass the Senate. We've got to get to work, folks. We can't do these circular firing squads anymore. We can't. But there was a young comedian. Y'all will probably recognize him from Pittsburgh. When I was a young man, started on SNL, Saturday Night Live, after his comedic career doing stand-up in clubs, got a gig on SNL. And was one of the biggest things to happen to Weekend Update ever. He made Weekend Update. He really made Weekend Update. A guy by the name of Dennis Miller. And Dennis went on to, that was back in the 80s. In the 90s, all the way through the late 90s, Dennis had a show, several shows, his biggest being on HBO. And I got to tell you, I loved that show. I did. It was thought-provoking. The theme music was "Everybody Wants to Rule the World," rule the world from Tears for Fears. I could still picture in my mind that opening. It was a great opening. He did an amazing job with that show. His monologues, he would stand there and just give really well thought out and funny monologues about current events. And then something happened. I don't I don't know what happened. I don't. I don't know if he, like, got behind on his taxes. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was that the ratings kinda died off on his show and he ended up losing his show. So maybe he fell out of love with us liberals that used to watch his show. I don't know. But he became an asshole. And no, I won't say it's compromise. I won't. I mean, everything he says was full throated, and his beliefs. Yeah, he started out in Pittsburgh. He did. He was a DJ in Pittsburgh when he started out, but he became just a right wing freak. His radio show, God, I tried to listen to it a few times just because I have to hear what the other side's saying and thinking. And it was just painful. It was nothing funny about it anymore at all because there's nothing funny about anything conservatives do. I mean, what's funny about immigration and abusing people? What's funny? It just, and this is where he ended up. This is where he ended up. He's doing infomercials for Fox Nation, selling crap. And I got to tell you, for me, it's a little heartbreaking. It really is, because if you ever got to see Dennis Miller in his prime, if you ever had a chance to have watched that show, I mean, it was it was fantastic. It really was. And just to see what pathetically he has turned into, it's heartbreaking. It's sad. It's just freaking sad. And where I'm going with this is I don't really understand what happens to these guys, because there was another young guy, started out a long time ago with a little show called Politically Incorrect. Bill Maher. And I tell you, his show was great. And they called it Politically Incorrect for a reason, because they would push the edge. They would push the edge of, they did a lot of what I do. They weren't scared to say shit. Unfortunately, Bill Maher went too far. He made a comment that was, even though it was somewhat taken out of context, it was still just a damn stupid thing to say, because this just happened. Yeah, right in the shadow of 9/11, right after the World Trade Center was knocked down, politically incorrect, Bill Maher said to the effect that we were cowards that lobbed cruise missiles, and the guys that were in those planes, they weren't cowards because they rode the plane in themselves. It's out of context. It's out of context. It was a conversation about, hey, if you got to be in the face of something, you tend to be more committed to it. But it doesn't matter. It was just a stupid thing to say. And he lost his show. Disney was parent company of the network that it was on, pulled it. That's it. No more. That's it. Done. And Politically Incorrect went away. And then he went to HBO. Started another show, Real Time with Bill Maher. And it started out pretty good. It did. I'll tell you, the guy, he does a lot of stand up, and these comedians, man, like I say, I tell Titus all the time, if I had the amount of talent you had in your finger linguistically, I would I would have the most massive show in the universe. If I could combine what you have for talent with what I do and know, it would be unstoppable. These comedians are artists. They are. And Bill Maher is gifted. He really is. He is gifted. But something, again, and I don't understand it, and I don't know where it's coming from. Shanzi, good morning, sir. It's not really a blitzkrieg. I'd call it a shitstorm. Yeah, exactly. Keep living your rule of three. Gandhi, Malcolm X, John Lewis. Love my team. Love the mug. I'm glad you're here, sir. I'm glad you're here. Cliff Cash is up and coming, liberal and funny. There are some good comedians out there that are really up and coming. But then COVID happened. And I will tell you, COVID broke Bill Maher. It did. Him personally, it seems as though he's got to have that adoration all the time. And being alone out there in his place, his show was painful. He tried to continue his show alone with no audience, and it was terrible. And he became incredibly bitter. His commentary turned incredibly bitter. And he'd already flirted with the right wing. You know, he would bring those right wingers on all the time. Y'all saw it happen. I don't know. It just got bad. It did. It just got bad. His point of view and I don't know. And those of you that watched it, Steve Hofstadter's great. He is great. But yeah, if you watch it, that's a great way to put it. It was really pitiful. It was really pitiful to watch. Oh God, what's her name? Long, tall, skinny, blonde hair. Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter and him became really close friends, and it just broke him. And it's just gotten gross. It's gotten gross. Bill Maher came out and said this on his show. Bill Maher said that Trump gave a perfect answer to a question about visiting the DC airplane crash site. Now, folks, if you don't know, Donald Trump was asked in a press conference, not in a press conference, he was doing a press gaggle thing. Will you go visit the site of the crash? People are hurting. And he gave the shittiest answer I have ever heard a president give. You know, a president is supposed to lead the people. A president is supposed to, even if you don't agree, when something tragic happens, you pull people together. And Donald Trump's response to the question, which isn't an out-of-line question. I mean, it's not an out-of-line question. You know, are you going to go visit the site of the crash? And I think everybody understood they meant, you know, the riverbank and maybe have a vigil for the families or something like that. No, he really disrespectfully turned to that reporter and says, "What, you expect me to go swimming?" Really, dude? That's what you wanted those families to hear? Your utter disdain for the fact that they're children? There was an ice skating, for the lack of a better word to put it, team of young people on that plane. I mean, a lot of people died. And that's your instinct? Not to feel? Marie Crabtree, have you heard that ICE has been detaining Native Americans? Yes, I have heard that. I've heard that the Navajo Nation, again, lawsuits will come from this. Lawsuits will come. It will take time, But the way he's doing things, you'll notice none of this has been through the legislature. All executive orders. The lawsuits will come. Deborah, thanks for the support. I really appreciate it. Olympic ice skaters, exactly. You people are always so informed. But yeah, at a time when a reporter's asking you, do something empathetic. I mean, talk about a slow one over the plate. How, again, I always say it doesn't have to be this way. He could have just looked at the camera and said, my heart goes out to the families, but they're still doing recovery. I don't think it'd be appropriate for me to go and inject myself in the situation. If he didn't want to go, it didn't have to be that way. He didn't have to look at the camera and say in the nastiest freaking tone, what, you want me to go swimming? And Bill Maher thought that was the best answer ever. And that's what we deserve to hear. And I wish that was the end of it, but it's not. Bill Maher declares China, quote, the new Islam, unquote, says left can't be honest about the country's threat. Well, let me explain a little bit. If you haven't watched Bill Maher, one of the things that he's been getting in trouble with, Bill Maher loves to shit talk Islam. You know that whole thing about don't lump everybody together? There are billions of people in this country that are devout followers of Islam. There are some that are casual followers of Islam. And no, they're not all violent extremists. They're just people with families. Some of the greatest achievements in our history came from the Arab community while Islam, after Islam became the predominant religion. But Bill Maher talks about Islam as though everybody has a damn, explosive vest on. And it's sick. And he said that himself, that China is the new Islam, meaning I tell you, I shit talk Islam, you give me shit about that, and you're wrong. He's saying China is the new that. Let me ask you a question, folks. Fenrir, again, thanks for the support. You've been here heavy with the support today. I really appreciate you. Why is it that the white people opposing DEI are mediocre flinches at best, not Rhodes Scholars, novelists, astrophysicists, but C students, trust fund babies, and TV salesmen not sending their best? You answered your own question, sir. You did. You answered your own question. Kenya G, what is Trump trying to hide with these executive orders? It is what the conservatives have wanted to do, the destruction of the American government. They've been open about this. They haven't hidden it. Whitney Brown, thank you for the support. But yeah, Bill Maher just told us, that shit you give us about not shit, this shit you give me about not crap talking Islam, about how I claim Islam is a radical, violent religion, and you give me shit about it because, I don't know, there's billions of people out there that are perfectly great people that happen to also be Muslim. Yeah, China's just like that. China's a threat, and you won't admit it. So let me ask you a question. To wrap this up. Uncle Fatty, love and hate are the same brain juice, oxytocin. Yeah. Love takes work, hate is easy. Love turns into hate. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, for doing the work for all Americans for loving. You know, it's my honor to be here, folks. It is my honor to be here. Let me ask you a question. Do you think the EU and China are enemies? And that is a legitimate question I'm asking you, the audience. Do you think China and the EU, and we have several people in our audience from Europe, various countries in Europe, are they enemies? They're competitors. They're competitors. They're not enemies. That's what our relationship is to China. That's what our relationship is to China. China is looking out for its people's best interests. We're looking out for ours. We do business in China. They're not evil. But here you have Bill Maher sliding down that sick, disgusting right wing hole even farther, castigating us, telling us out loud he's going to pull a Trump and say the most offensive shit again, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. To which I am responding, thank you for the support, Robert Hansen. To which I am responding to Elon Musk with this. Enjoy doing your fucking infomercials with Dennis Miller. I am done with you. Sally S., thank you for the support. Deregulation equals understaffing, decreased safety, and increased fraud. We have this thing that we've built up in our heads about what a rival, what a competitor is. Folks, China and Russia are not the same. Russia actively tries to get our people killed. They do. They do. They actively have worked with Iran to target our service members. They actively work to target our military in Syria. China doesn't do that. China doesn't do that. There is a differentiation to be made between Russia and China. Now, look, I'm going to tell you something. China is a strong rival. They have aspirations to be the world leader. They do. Fenrir, thank you again for the support. So much support today, man. I really appreciate you. In Trump's world, being a competitor makes you an enemy. China is a 5,000-year-old civilization that invented damn near everything before 1750. Everybody that these people hate, the Arabs, the Chinese, everybody invented most of the technology, modern medicine, algebra, invented most of everything. They did. And they hate these people. They do. I don't hate China. I just know China and Xi have China's best interests in mind, not mine. Not mine. That is a competitor. I can understand a competitor. I can deal with a competitor. Russia has to die. Russia is an enemy. We are all but shooting at each other. And I believe that Donald Trump is doing this in the long run to help our enemy. And I believe Monday is going to be much, much worse. Fenrir, Islam preserved Western civilization and right. Yeah. Do you know why we know about ancient Greece? It ain't the freaking Greeks, folks. It's not. It's not. It was the Muslims that preserved those writings for us. Yeah. An overwhelming amount of what we know about our history is because the Muslims and the Arabs preserved that information. That's just real history that you don't get taught anywhere in an American school. It's like we were talking about Mansa Musa. Why wouldn't they teach about the wealthiest man to ever live in school? Because he was black and a Muslim. It's Black History Month, folks. We're going to talk some more. You're going to have to. We're going to talk about more great black people that have contributed to our history. But we're not going to do it today. That is what I have for you. Understand, to sum it up, yeah, it's going to be ugly. And those oligarchs, the broligarchy, are going to do as much damage to our government as they possibly can because that's who they are. They have been in a class war. You know, you've heard it, trickle down, that bullshit fake economic theory. All of that was a class war against you. And they shot their shot this election. And that huge tsunami of shit that is the opening of the Trump administration has hit the rocks and it is broken. It's going to take time, but we're going to end up fixing this. Do your job, people. Make this next election the worst backlash election the Republicans have ever seen. And they will throw Trump under the bus so hard and so fast. He's getting older and older. Look at him. Every press conference, he is physically pathetic. And he's got pudding for brains. And it's just getting worse. So your crazy ass MAGA uncle is about to watch his gas prices go up, his grocery prices go up. All of this is happening right now. His electric bill's going to go up. He's going to be feeling all the same pain that we're feeling. And you're going to show him pictures of Trump golfing while it happens. I love you, folks. This is Old Texas Paul. Enjoy some Texas cities at night.